am going to be such a mess by the end of this chat. It's a very fleeting time. Frenzy, can we not eat the camera today? Maybe tomorrow? Hello, welcome to Sage and Stone Homestead. If you have not met me yet, my name is Heather. These are my goats. I have had dairy goats since 2020, and when I got my first herd of dairy goats, it was Nigerian dwarfs, and one of them was in milk. She came with a set of twins. If you hear water running, it's the automatic water over here. And at that time, I really didn't have the infrastructure to separate moms and babies at night in order to do what's called a milk share. So a lot of people, when they raise not only dairy goats, but dairy cows, they will milk alongside the babies, but they'll put the babies away either at night or in the morning, whatever works with their schedule, for about 12 hours, separating mom and baby so that mama's udder can fill up. And then, they'll milk mama out and reunite mom and baby so that baby can have access to mom and mom's milk for the next 12 hours. That's a system that works really well. I like that system, especially when we're coming into the spring and summer when it's warm outside and when the days are longer. We just had 5 mamas give birth here for our fall milk. We do have a spring kidding season and spring milk. That's when some of my higher producers are in milk, but I like to have milk year round for things like eggnog, for like baking my bread recipe, pudding, cereal, things like that. Like everyday kind of uses for milk. I don't necessarily preserve my fall and winter milk, but I still like to have some. Otherwise, I have to buy it. Now, I do have a friend who has a dairy cow as of this year. She just got her cow, and we have been getting a little bit of excess milk from her while we're not getting very much milk out of our dairy goats. We're kind of in the overlap between my spring girls drying off and my fall girls are at the tail end of raising their babies. The first mom to give birth this fall is Margie. She had twins. There's one of them right there. They are getting very big, and I am actually able to separate them around November 30th. I'm actually filming this on the 21st of November. So if you're wondering, Heather, isn't it cold there? It will be, I'm sure, by the time this posts. And by the time this posts, we will have separated President Snow and his brother Cato and be getting quite a lot of milk out of Margie. But the truth is, for right now, I'm not getting that much milk. I actually milked today and got 2.5 cups of milk from milking 5 does, and it's not a lot. Really, what I like to get every day is about a ½ gallon of milk that allows us basically free access to drinking however much we feel like we want. I can use it in my baking, and occasionally I can make a cheese or something like mozzarella. So I got a question on one of my recent vlogs, and it's a very good question, and I figured I'd go into detail about it because I think this is something that a lot of people probably wonder about, and a lot of newbies to something like dairy goats wonder if dairy goats are worth it if you're only getting so little. Now, I will say I know, because I've had goats for a long time, that getting a little bit of milk, that season ends pretty quickly. In not very long, we will be overrun with milk, and I will not even know what to do with all of it. So it's a very fleeting time, but during this time, is it worth it? Why do I even bother? Guess I'll sit next to Tizzy. She's been my top milker for most of the year this year, and I got very little out of her today. I think part of that is we've had rain. Come here, girl. We've had rain for the last couple of days, and so they've been eating hay, but I think they genuinely do eat more when they're able to go out and graze. Tizzy here is pregnant. She's going to have twins in springtime, and so that is most of the reason why I didn't get very much out of her today. But the fact that they've been cooped up with hay only and less, outside forage is part of that too. So the first reason that I milk my goats, even when I'm not getting very much, is routine. Routine is excellent for dairy goats. They thrive on routine. Whenever you're trying to do something different with them, like put a goat on the milk stand who hasn't been on the milk stand either ever or in a really long time, there's an adjustment. And so I would like the goat to be able to make that adjustment that's hard for them during a time when it's not super necessary that I empty their udder. It's very important that when you have dairy animals that you take care of their udder. You want to be able to empty their udder every single day, sometimes twice a day in higher production animals, and that's for their health. It's not, necessarily for, come here. And that's for their health. It's not just so you can get as much milk as possible, but they need to be emptied that frequently. And so if you've got a goat that's trying to learn how to jump up on the milk stand, how to be milked while she's super full and absolutely must be drained, it's a lot, not just for you, but for the goat. Frenzy, can we not eat the camera today? Maybe tomorrow? Huh? Maybe tomorrow. I do have one mama who is a first freshener, meaning that this fall was her first time having babies and her first time coming into milk. First fresheners can be kind of a lot to train to the milk stand. There's things that you can do prior to them actually kidding to help train them to the milk stand, but if you don't have time, like I didn't this last fall, that time after they have their babies but before they're really needing to be milked, like when the babies are separated, is a great time to train them. Like I said before, you have to make sure that you empty everything out of their udder. Another thing with Winnie too is she had one baby. And when you have a mom give birth to one baby, a lot of times that one baby will favor one side of the udder. And so the side of the udder that the baby doesn't pay a lot of attention to can essentially overfill, and they can either get mastitis in that side because that side could leak, or they could just become lopsided. And in show goat world, that's really something that's very important. It's a little bit less important with something like a dairy goat herd from a homestead, but evenness really does matter. You want to make sure throughout the life of their lactation that you are stimulating both sides evenly so that they continue to produce evenly every year. A lopsided one year can affect their future lactations. So because of that, especially with Winnie, I had Winnie on the stand from 24 hours after she gave birth to make sure that her udder was staying even. At this point, the baby is eating off of both sides, and even some of the other babies in the barn are drinking off of Winnie, so I have a little bit less of that to worry about, but I still want to make sure that Winnie is used to the routine so that when I am able to milk Winnie and kind of wean her baby off of her, I'm getting as much milk as I can the easiest way that I can because she'll already be trained. Another thing to think about too is mamas who just gave birth need a lot of nutrition. They're trying to heal from the kidding process and they're trying to produce milk, not just for you, but for their babies. And in a system like I have here, I do feed all of my goats grain every day, but my milkers, the goats that are producing for me and for their babies, they need more nutrition, and sometimes it's hard to make sure that the goats that need the nutrients are actually getting the nutrients. Goats have a hierarchy, and some of them will bully others out of the feed stand, and really some of my goats that are the biggest bullies for the feed are the ones that don't need any extra feed at all. And so if I can feed, you know, the minimum that I need to my barn, but then make sure that my milkers are getting everything they need on the stand, that's great. It's another reason to stick them on the stand. You might as well milk them while they're there. Now, something I have noticed to be very beneficial is getting the moms on the stand every day from 24 hours after they give birth allows me a way to keep track of their health. So when I get my hands on the udder, I get a sense of what their udders are supposed to feel like with udder texture and temperature. One of the ways that I knew my goat Margie was sick was when I went to milk her one day, her udder was hot, fiery hot. So I could tell right then and there that she had a fever and something was wrong. Recently here, I was milking my goat Foxy and I was listening to her breathing, and her breathing didn't sound normal, and I was able to treat her. Now that doesn't have anything to do with the udder, but a lot of times after mom's kid, there's a window of time there where their immune system is kind of knocked down just from the kidding process. It's a very stressful event for them, and so any number of things can go wrong during that time, not just with their udder, but other aspects of their health. Dude, come here, come in the front. They want to see you. This is William. William is adorable, and he's massive. Look at him. Oh, he's so gorgeous. That's Spunky. Girl. Spunky's been coming around, you guys. If you haven't been following the channel long, this little girl has been pretty skittish. But she at least loves jumping up on me and digging on me, so I guess I'll take it. So it's not just the mama's health that I'm able to monitor by bringing moms up on the stand. I am also able to monitor the baby's health, because when I put my hands on her udder, I kind of know what to expect. As the babies age and get bigger, I am gonna get less and less milk because the babies are getting bigger, their demand is greater, and so that's what I expect. I expect to get a lot less milk. That's what's happening now. I used to get, I think it was like 6 cups a day when the babies were real little. Oh my gosh. But now that they're bigger, I expect to basically get nothing, and that's good. I know that if I'm suddenly getting a lot of milk, like out of Stormy, for example, who's feeding twin bucklings right now, that something might be wrong with one of her bucklings, because if they're not eating, it's not a good thing. They should be really getting most of her milk all the time, and a drastic change in that pattern would signal something is wrong. And I have had that happen before. I didn't know exactly what was wrong at the time, but in hindsight, I could tell. I had a goat a couple years ago. His name was Hullabaloo. I have a Hullabaloo now, but he's Hullabaloo 2.0. This was Hullabaloo 1.0, born out of a goat that I had named Calamity. And I noticed the day before Hullabaloo died that his mom, Calamity, had quite a lot of milk in her udder. I was like, oh, that's kind of unusual. I just assumed that Hullabaloo was getting more hay, he was maybe getting more grain, and he had a little bit less of a need for the milk, but that wasn't the case. The babies love to drink milk. They'll drink as much as they can all day long. I think it was that night, he was, you know, up snuggling with me like this, and I peeled down his eyelid to check his FOMACHA score. Little William here has a nice red FOMACHA, but Hullabaloo's FOMACHA was stark white, like white. And he never did scour, but he had a case of coccidia that I did treat, but it was too late. Anyway, all that to say, we're monitoring both mom's health and baby's health by putting moms on the stand and milking them. I am going to be such a mess by the end of this chat. Another reason to milk mamas when you maybe aren't getting a whole lot is to stay on top of their production. Eventually, the babies will kind of self-wean, not necessarily at these ages. These guys are about 6 weeks old right now. But when they start to really get more of an appetite for things like hay and grain, or when they just get old enough where their mamas just want to naturally boot them off, there's a time there when you want to be able to be there for that, essentially, with your milking, so that the mom's udder doesn't automatically trigger with the baby nursing less into making less milk, because that's what her body is making milk for, the baby. And if the baby is just naturally getting to that point of weaning, you want to be able to be there to make up for what the baby isn't taking, so that you can keep her production high. I hope y'all can hear anything I'm saying. Girl, you love her. I know we talked about the routine for the goats, but it's also a really good routine for me. Not that I need an excuse to come down and sit with my goats, but it's nice to have this routine to look forward to. It's good for me, and I can fondly remember that first, I think it was a cup of milk. If I can find the picture of the first milk that I ever got from my dairy goats, I will put it in here. I was so immensely proud of that little bit of milk. And I told myself then, and obviously, you know, our goals and whatever can change, but if I can get just enough goat milk to put in my coffee every day, that's plenty of milk for me. And obviously, that's going to change person to person. That might not be plenty of milk for you, but I feel like even still, that would be plenty of milk for me. And it's just because I love it. I love milking my goats. I love spending time with them and bonding with them in that way. And it's really not much work. It only takes me maybe 20 minutes to milk and feed and throw out hay and sit down with the babies for a little bit. I guess if I'm sitting with the babies, I'd probably take longer than 20 minutes, but the milking chore itself, along with feeding them and giving hay, only takes about 20 minutes a day. And it's a really nice routine that I quite enjoy. Thanks for sitting with me in the goat barn today, helping keep the babies social. I love questions like this. Absolutely keep them coming. I like to answer as many questions as I can down in the comments, so if you've got one, go ahead and leave one. I'll see you guys again soon.